In today's video, we have a major update regarding the mass shooting that took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, including disgusting coverage from CNN and MSDNC. In this video, as usual, we'll show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act.
A tragic and deadly start to the new school year after a shooter opened fire during a Catholic school mass in Minneapolis.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children.
After the suspect, armed with a rifle, shotgun and a pistol, began firing through church windows, sending bullets and glass raining down onto elementary school children.
These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground.
Students described the moments of terror before being reunited with their parents.
I heard something like really loud, like I thought it was fireworks in the church, and then I saw the shooting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared.
Okay, so we've been down this road before, unfortunately, and we already know what the reactions are going to be. It's usually standard. If the shooter is someone that actually leans left, like in this case, who happens to be trans and absolutely hates President Trump, what the left is going to do is try to minimize those details and chalk it up to just another tragedy and more gun control. That's what they're going to do. And of course, conservatives are going to say, hey, we got to address this mental illness issue. And a lot of the mental illness in this country is coming from what's happening on the left and how the elected leaders and how mainstream media covers the news that is pushing a lot of negative ideas in the minds of people to the point where they're deciding to take matters into their own hands and do things like this. Now, before we go any further, let's hear more details on who the shooter actually is.
Police say the suspect, 23-year-old Robin Westman, fired dozens of rounds from the three weapons. Investigators say they're looking at an apparent manifesto left by Westman. Court records from Dakota County, Minnesota show a then 17-year-old called Robert Westman was granted a name change to Robin in 2020, with the court writing, quote, minor child identifies as a female. While Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem posted on X saying in part, quote, this deeply sick murderer scrawled the words, for the children and where is your God, and kill Donald Trump on a rifle magazine. This level of violence is unthinkable.
Some people might be asking the question, why would someone do something like this? Guys, it's a sickness of the mind. And it happens through the repetition of negative ideas that people actually emotionally buy into. So this negative idea that President Trump is Hitler, President Trump is going to destroy our democracy, President Trump this and President Trump that, it's negative ideas through repetition is being impressed upon people on the left. And because they lack critical thinking skills, they accept it as fact. And what happens emotionally is they get out of control. Now, let's look at ground news as an example of that type of rhetoric. This happened just on Monday, 2 nights ago. Tiffany Cross calls Stephen Miller a white supremacist. Point blank, she says it out loud. No pushback. No, hey, don't say things like that. They just go ahead and allow her to say it. And I'm going to show it to you. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because we call out this mess on the right. But on the left, they don't like to police speech from their own people. Now, as you guys know, we use ground news because we love to see the full picture of what's being reported, and that's exactly what's happening here. Let me just show you one key thing, and I'll get to the clip here. If you look up this particular story, 67% of the media that leans right talked about this, and only 17% leans left. So they don't even want to hold their own party accountable. We know that. Now, look at this clip.
Can I just say
for
really
one
quickly,
second.
Abby, because
Hold on.
anytime that we play something from Stephen Miller, it would be journalistic integrity to point out that he is a white supremacist and he is the brainchild behind this policy. That's not my opinion, that's actual fact. And for him to purport lies from the Oval Office as a white supremacist,
I don't know.
it should be pointed out.
Big
Look,
aspersions.
hold on a
It's
second.
reporting Washington
Hold on a
Wall Street
second.
Journal's own reporting.
I want to.
So that's just an example of the rhetoric that they allow on mainstream media, and people eat this stuff up. I would call that defamation if you ask me, but I'm not a lawyer. Now, when we look up this mass shooting incident as a story on Ground News, look at this. Only 17% of the outlets that lean left are reporting on who the shooter actually is. I told you they don't want to pay attention to those details. This is why we use Ground News. I want you to get the full picture. I always want to show you guys both sides because I want you to exercise your critical thinking skills. That's exactly what this country is missing. We need to get back to a time where people are willing to hear both sides and make up their own mind. And that's exactly what Ground News will help you do. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
Here's what we know. Now, according to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, children have been killed. 2 young children aged 8 and 10 were killed as they sat in the pews of the church. Other children were injured, 2 of them in critical condition. According to law enforcement, in total, 17 injured. The shooter, armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, targeted children through the church windows. There were dozens of children inside the church. The shooter also carried what police describe as some sort of smoke bomb. The shooter, law enforcement believes, took his own life after firing dozens of rounds.
Now, we're going to get to what both sides are saying as far as their reactions are concerned. And I'll just give you a fair warning. Some of it I would call extremely disturbing. But just on what's happening with the shooter's dead. That's number 1. 2, social medias have been wiped. That's interesting. 3, they're still trying to confirm whether or not a manifesto actually exists. There's some rumors going around of a manifesto, but it hasn't really been confirmed. What we do know, as was stated earlier, this is a trans individual, okay? They did change their name in the state of Minnesota in a city called Minneapolis, which has a history of problems, as we know. And here is an actual photo. Now, again, this isn't really confirmed. This is floating around on social media, so obviously take it for what it is. But this is what people are saying is a picture of the shooter, the words written on the firearm, as you guys can see, his notebook with the defend equally and LGBTQ colors, etc. Okay, so now this actually takes us to, like I stated, some delusional takes. The first one is the left doesn't want to hear anybody talk about thoughts and prayers. Take a look.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
As an elected official, you are on the ground with your folks and you appreciate this journey. I agree with the mayor. I'm not, the thoughts and prayers, I'm so beyond that nonsense, the lie of that. Because what we have are people who continue to stand in the way of actually doing something to stop the violence against their own kids. It is amazing to me. We watch young kids die in classrooms and now in church, and all we get are thoughts and prayers. What?
I mean, he's expressing something that I know you feel and most people feel, which is a combination of sadness, but raw rage. That forget about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying when they were murdered through a church window.
Okay, so clearly they got their talking points. And it's unfortunate to say that when you're talking about a tragedy, but as soon as the mayor said the word, or he chastised people, I guess, saying words, thoughts and prayers, because I haven't really seen what he's truly addressing. I don't understand why he would push back on people saying Our thoughts and prayers go out to these kids. I just find that to be interesting. And let's just be real about it. These people on the left are not Christians, okay? Even if they say they are, let's just be honest about it for my Christians out there, okay? Not for me to judge them. That's between them and God, of course. But I don't think the Democrat Party truly represents what a Christian life should look like. But they seem to be the authority on the issue on whether or not you should be able to say thoughts and prayers, but they don't want to hear it. Now, here's another disgusting clip. This time is from Fake Tapper on CNN. He is just so concerned regarding the details of who the shooter is, particularly what their gender seems to be. Take a look.
In the videos, which are titled with Westman's full name, the person recording them pages through this handwritten notebook. The notebook describes feelings of self-hatred and wishes to die. And the words, "I'm so sorry," are written in large letters on one page. The notebook also includes a diagram of the inside of a church, which appears to match the layout of Annunciation Catholic Church. The person recording shows themselves stabbing a knife into that drawing of the layout of that church while saying the words, quote, "ha, nice." Jake, again, piecing together this information, all of it incredibly disturbing. And again, as I think people have been pointing out since this happened, you see obviously some real clues here as to what a motive could be, but they're not saying formally what it is yet.
The Minneapolis Star-Tribune, just as another piece of the puzzle as to who the shooter was, the Minneapolis Star-Tribune says, according to court records, because there's been some confusion about what the shooter's name was.
Yes.
Robin Westman's mother applied to change her child's name in 2019. It was at one point Robert Paul Westman.
Correct.
But since she identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect that identification, was underage, it's now Robin Westman.
Okay, so what do we have so far? Democrats are losing their mind if someone says the words thoughts and prayers. They also are tiptoeing around who this individual truly is. And now what I'm going to show you is how they're starting to blame the president of the United States. Take a look.
This is not the time to jump to conclusions about the shooter, right? What his ideological views might have been, what his own personal situation was. And this is the time where, unfortunately, Americans have a habit on social media of speculating about things and sometimes vilifying communities and making assumptions about communities who might be responsible before we have any information that would indicate who is responsible or whether they're part of any particular ideological or other community. So I think right now it's unsatisfying, but we need to just wait, not jump to conclusions. What is this administration doing right now other than saying our prayers are with you? We have a president right now who's talking about sending the National Guard into cities across the country that supposedly have a crime problem. Can we talk about the proliferation of firearms in this country?
Okay, as I told you, they're going to blame the president because that's the easy thing to do politically. Then the second easy thing to do is to start screaming about gun control. But remember, they offer no actual legitimate solutions because the only thing they're truly offering behind all this rhetoric is they want to get rid of the Second Amendment, okay? And there's no way you're going to convince me otherwise when it comes to the current Democrat Party, okay? They could try to lie their way and say, yeah, we own firearms, just like Kamala Harris did during the election. Come on, get real. And the third thing here is the disturbing behavior of the media where they just want to tiptoe around who this shooter really is. Just come out and say it. I just find it interesting how they're so sensitive about it. Why not be sensitive of the victims here, you know? Okay, so here's Byron York on Fox News really pointing out a good point about Democrats and the mistake they're continuing to make.
Well, this shooting, by a terrible coincidence, just happened as the Democratic National Committee was wrapping up its meeting in Minneapolis this summer, which was filled with Trump bashing and especially bashing of the president's anti-crime initiative, where Democrats have placed themselves completely against what the president is doing. And in light of the Associated Press poll that you just mentioned, with a majority of Americans saying they support and they approve of what President Trump is doing on the issue of crime, it just puts Democrats completely on the wrong side. So what you have now is this really terrible, weird confluence of the Democrats bashing Trump on crime, this terrible crime happening in Minneapolis, an added debate about trans, all in the context of really heartbreaking loss of life. And it has created a muddled situation, but one thing that is clear is the Democratic Party seems to be on the wrong side of this crime issue.
Of course, they're on the wrong side of the crime issue. They're on the wrong side of pretty much everything, if you think about it, because their whole existence in life right now is based on President Trump. It's not based on serving the American people. It's a fundamental difference in their thinking. It's just a classical mistake or a life lesson that we should be very aware of. And that is, do not allow your hatred for a person to consume your life, because when you do, that means that person controls you. That's exactly what's happened to Democrats. And that's why they are totally disconnected, and they will be disconnected from this tragedy as well. Now, interesting videos just came to light, and CNN is talking about it, and I think we should take a look at it, about the shooter and what his activities were leading up to this tragedy. Take a look.
Westman seems to have left a series of online videos which describe an obsession with school shootings and even named other mass shooters, such as the 2012 Sandy Hook gunman, the Columbine gunman, and the man who attacked the Tree of Life synagogue in 2018.
Here's my note to my family.
The video also shows written statements and several guns painted with slurs. In another clip, the speaker simply reads aloud from a clothes dryer manual.
Dryer safety. Your safety and the safety of others are very important.
Police say they also found a litany of writings.
We are also aware of a manifesto that the shooter had timed to be released on YouTube. This manifesto appeared to show him at the scene and included some disturbing writings. That content has since been taken down with the assistance of the FBI, and it now remains under active review by our investigators.
Apparently part of the plan that the shooter seemed to illustrate in those same videos on YouTube, a photo of a slab of wood. An actual slab of wood was found at the scene, blocking a door from the outside.
This will be for the emergency exit. Pop it through the hand.
According to social media posts, the shooter's mother worked at the school from 2016 to 2021, and the shooter graduated from the school in 2017. The shooter, now known as 23-year-old Robin Westman, identified as a female and changed their name legally to Robin from Robert in 2020.
Now, one of the things that actually stood out to me in that entire clip was about this reporting that 2x4s blocked the exits so that when this evil individual was looking to murder people, there was no way for them to get out, which is really disheartening to hear, if you ask me. But I want you to pay attention to the way CNN investigates this idea. I think it's really embarrassing for the journalists out there. Take a look.
What does it say to you, and what is your understanding and reporting about these 2x4s that barricaded these doors? Is this something where the gunman expected to be able to get inside and couldn't? It saved these kids, where it barricaded the doors in a way that made it more dangerous because they couldn't get out? I mean, what is your understanding of what happened here?
My understanding is that those 2x4s were placed through the door handles of two separate exits where children could have fled during the shooting. The theory is, and we don't have the gunman to interview about this, but the theory is that he wanted to create containment where his victims would be trapped within that location.
So he put the 2x4s on the outside of these doors to trap them in there?
That's correct, and that requires some planning and forethought.
Okay, so listen, guys, I'm just being honest here. The way that I read this clip from Casey Hunt, I mean, it's just a stupid question. I mean, why else does he use the 2x4s, okay? I mean, I just don't get it, right? And the guy she's talking to, he's a piece of work too, because earlier this guy refused to identify the shooter as a transgender. And we already know CNN is continuing to tiptoe around all of that. Now, actually what they're doing is they brought on the mayor to, I guess, try to criticize people who are attacking, in their own words, the trans community. So we go from actually focusing on the victims to focusing on the trans community. That's what CNN and the mayor is up to right now. Take a look.
But when you spoke about this today publicly, you voiced concern for the transgender community, for the community overall. And obviously, you chose to do that in that moment because you thought it was important. And I wanted to give you a chance to say why you felt it was important to do that in that moment.
Obviously, I've heard about the rhetoric and the narrative that is being pushed out, but here's the thing. Anybody that is going to use this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any community has lost touch with a common humanity. We got to be operating not out of hate for any group, but out of a love for our children. That's where the focus needs to be right now. A love for our kids. Seeing these kids, not just as somebody else's kids, this horrific thing happened, but what if it was our own? How would we feel then? So, look, we need to be standing up for every community out there. Our Catholic community, too, by the way. I mean, any community that suffers this kind of blow, our Minneapolis community, you got to stand up for them. But, you know, I feel oftentimes in these instances, there's this desire to villainize a group.
Yeah, so my only question to the mayor would be, what happens if that group, through history, has shown to do things like this repeatedly? Is it wrong to criticize the group? I mean, listen, black people get criticized every single day, okay? We have this whole thing called black fatigue now, right? Now, you guys watch my show. You know I'm not some ghetto thug, okay? That's why you watch my show. And I know when you guys probably don't like what black people are doing, you're probably not thinking about me. I can accept that. I can discern in my mind. I have critical thinking skills. But I guess if we decide to criticize this shooter because they're trans and mentally ill, we are attacking the entire trans community. I don't think we need to do anything when it comes to trans community. I think they do enough damage on their own to their own community. That's just the way that I see it.
You want to call this an act of cowardice? Do it, because it is. But regardless of what group or background, gender, you know, the bottom line is that kids got killed. Let's love each other more. Let's love each other more, because the antidote to hate is not more hate. Hurt people, and the antidote to hate is a whole lot more love. That's where we all need to be going right now.
Well, that's one thing I do agree with him on, is that we do need more love in this country, no question about it. Even if we have political differences, we should still love each other enough to set those aside and see each other for who God has made us to be. And I would argue that politics has definitely become a disease in this country that has prevented people from using critical thinking skills, as I continue to repeat throughout this video. It prevents people from exercising emotional maturity or intelligence. I think people make their life about politics instead of making their life about purpose, their relationship with God. I mean, what are they doing on this planet to serve? I think we've gotten away from that. And so the farther we get away from that, the more confused people get, the more angry they get, and the more destructive they become. And so I do agree with him about the love component, but I think the only way that's going to happen is first starting on an individual level, being the change you want to see. Sounds cheesy, but it's true, because that's the way that I run this show. I wish everybody would do what I'm doing. Show both sides. Stop being so hyperbolic all the time. Okay? We don't need all that. All right? I think the politicians are hyperbolic enough. We don't need people in the media and podcasts to tack on and amplify it. Just talk about what both sides are saying and let the people make up their own mind. I think that's fair. But that's how I see it. Now, I want to hear from you guys about this entire story in the comment section below. What's your reaction to CNN and the nonsense they're continuing to pull? Like, they're tiptoeing around who the shooter really is. 2, they're asking stupid questions about the event. You saw it. And they're focusing more on the trans community instead of on the actual victims. Let me know if you guys saw the same thing. And just really give me your thoughts about everything that happened today in the comment section below. All right, so in our next video, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson just continues to humiliate himself. He's already dealing with a low approval rating in the single digits. And he had an interview yesterday on MSDNC, and it went terribly wrong. You got to see this for yourself. So if you're interested in that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on it, because it's coming up right now.